I believe they're counting on the main resistance coming towards the end of this summer. And I'll give you the reasons for that, and it's a learned, researched reasoning for this. Riots amongst disillusioned citizens typically occur in heat waves. I won't go into the geoengineering aspect of this, but I could go into the 5J deployed bollards and street adornments that you'll all be seeing when you re-enter your cities and towns, or many of you will. I think the coverage at the moment is about 40%, and you know what I'm talking about. But any resistance to further lockdowns is going to come when people are hungry and hot, and that's planned because hungry and hot and unarmed is a pushover. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of this, but this is a horrible thing to picture. Did you know one man with 10,000 rounds and an automatic machine gun could kill an entire town or village in about 20 minutes? Did you know this? I know that's a horrific fact to even contemplate, but it gives you an idea of what a hungry, hot, unarmed, angry mob could encounter, considering what's already been put onto the world without a shot being fired. So imagine if people do start fighting back, will they bring out the army? Will they bring out their semi-automatic weapons, their automatic weapons? Will they use EMF for crowd dispersal? Well, they do that already, and if you don't believe that, you can research it thoroughly for yourself. This is what a lot of this 5J is about, controlling spaces where people congregate at the flick of a switch. And I know a lot of people are struggling to comprehend, well, how can 5G be dangerous? I have 5G already, I'm okay. I've heard this, and there's no argument for me on that. What people would need to appreciate is, imagine a dial, and imagine everybody is on the same network, which 5G is, by the way. It doesn't matter who you pay. It's like your water bill or your electric bill or your gas bill. Do you think that the gas companies put their individual gas down your pipe, or the electricity companies? No, it's a billing source. You just get, that's the administration centre that sends your bill out. Many people really don't realise that simple facet of life either. It's a similar situation when they roll this out. So imagine a dial, and imagine just your stereo. You know, you put it on 1, it's fine, 2's fine, 3's fine, 4's fine. Turn it up to 9 if the dial goes up to 10, unless you've got a really high quality system, you'll start hearing some distortion. Of course, turn it up to 10, and that's it, that's your dial. So the rollout of this new technology operates on the ability to change and use varying alternating frequencies, many of those of which are very harmful. So I'm one of these people. I do look ahead. I want to know, I want to think about potential scenarios, and I don't focus on it. They just sort of come to me because of the information that other people present to me, and it just builds a picture in my mind. Well, if what we're reading and seeing is true, and I firmly believe it is, that the rollout is going to be in major cities, the crowd dispersal frequencies will be used, as will the pleasure frequencies in shopping centres, the displeasure frequencies to manipulate sports. And if you think that's far-fetched, well, have a think on that. You've got a whole stadium, you've got a betting cartel, you've got a team that's 14-1 expected to lose, and they're winning 1-0, and the crowd's really restless. What do? Well, you've got the referee, you've got VAR. I'm talking about soccer here, football. You've got referee, you've got VAR. Well, you've also got 80, 100,000 very susceptible people in the crowd. And you can flip a switch, and I'm sure you'll be able to pay for this service, and you'll be able to motivate, pardon me, those people using a particular frequency. So you'll be able to up their emotional response, which would have an effect on the players on the pitch. Alternatively, you could, if the team was cheering, so it was an away team, and there was 40,000 of them, and they were beating the big team, say, I don't know, call it an English league, call it Norwich versus Liverpool. So Norwich are, Liverpool are playing at Norwich. Norwich are 1 up, and the crowd at Norwich are going wild. It's 80 minutes, and Liverpool make a phone call. Go on, switch it up. So they pay their £500,000, and you're going to laugh at this, but I happen to know this is pretty factual. Up go the frequency on the beacon, or down goes the frequency on the beacon, and 40,000 Norwich fans suddenly start feeling suicidal, moody and depressed. Start shouting at the players on the pitch, "Ooh, rubbish, ooh, get off," and the whole mood in the stadium drops. Now at that moment, because of the psychological trainers at the football club, which is worth billions, have programmed, don't forget, programmed the players to react to the negativity of the opposing crowd, to raise their game, to get their crowd on side. So segments of stadiums, home fans, away fans, mixed fans, will be subjected to all sorts of different frequencies at half time, for example. They'll put on a message, a political message maybe, or a media message, and they'll enforce it with a positive EMF. And they've been doing this for years, and people think that it's a fantasy, but it's not. It's a silent weapon for silent wars. It can make you buy pizza when you walk past a pizza place. It can spark an entire supermarket into a buying frenzy. I used to use, or recommended, a company I used to work for to use oral perfumes in their sales areas to create smells and to create a different sense as you walk through. So we trialled it, and it upped the retail by about 60%. So that was just through, I think it was all the factory. I can't remember the exact term. It was quite a while ago, but it worked. It created a certain smell. So that's one of your senses. Well, that was an external sense, and that's what you register inside your brain. Well, we're talking about a system here of frequencies that can make your brain project maybe even a taste or a smell, but certainly an emotion or a sensation. And we're also talking about technology that has the ability to create a 3D image of you behind brick walls, behind building structures. You will be seen walking around your property, whatever you're doing, whether you're in your garden, your home, sitting on the toilet, in bed, doesn't matter what you're doing. They will be able to build a picture of you live, a 3D image. So there's a lot to discuss with the potential summer issues because of this rollout, where before we've seen sound weapons used in crowd dispersal when there's been riots. Now we're going to be seeing potentially, and I hope I'm wrong, please, I can't help put out the information that I see, because I'm frequently correct, and I want people to be prepared, mentally prepared more than anything, for the scenario coming this summer, particularly around the end of August, where hungry, desperate, angry, hot people might be facing a new threat when it comes to protest, on top of the poverty issue, on top of the hunger issue. So all I could recommend, or all I could say, is get fat. Eat as much pasta, rice, and stuff as you can now, in preparation. If you're one of these people that believes there's a fight coming, and I can't decide that for you, and I wouldn't tell you to go and fight anyone. That's a personal belief. If you feel that your locality in life, politics, etc., everything around you needs to change, you're going to have to fight for it. But just understand that you could be facing a different threat. You could be hungry. And if other people are going to go out and fight, younger people than you, fitter people, then feed them up. Understand that it could happen that normal people, just mild-mannered, everyday working people, could be dragged into something that they're not physically and mentally ready for. And this goes back to the Mylar video I made a couple of months ago, which didn't get a lot of views because I don't think people at the time maybe thought, what good would Mylar be? Well, Mylar blocks EMF and 5G, and I don't know if you've noticed the protesters in Hong Kong use umbrellas. Well, you might also laugh at this, but I actually emailed the leader of one of the Hong Kong protests to suggest that they all started carrying umbrellas. This was a couple of years ago. I'm not going to take claim for that. I also suggested that they all carry bottles of fizzy Coke or fizzy juice. This doesn't just apply to Hong Kong, by the way. This applies to all protests, where if you had an umbrella and you were carrying a sticky Cherryade or a sticky bottle of Diet Coke, and you were to use that as a weapon, first of all, it's a non-offensive weapon. It's a bottle of soft drink. 2, try and remove a bottle of soft drink from a full SWAT setup. You get the buckles, the gun, the belt, the radio. You can't do it. You have to go back to the station. You have to go back to your unit and wash up and replace your kit. So you're not hurting anyone. You're literally rendering somebody. It's like dropping a drop of syrup on a fly. So umbrellas and fizzy drinks make an extremely effective protest weapon. But for 2020, if people were to fit Mylar into their umbrellas while protesting and hold them up, then that would actually create a barrier against sonic and EMF weapons. And again, you might think still, I'm not defending myself, but people listening to this might think, what the fucking hell is he talking about? Well, I'm being deadly serious here. If you don't think the world protests and goes out onto the streets and they haven't been looking for a way to cull these protests, then you're frankly very naive. So have a look into it. Just type in global protests 2019 or 2018 and see the sheer amount of people out on the streets in 130 plus countries. Well, before then, these protesters generally weren't as hungry as people are going to be, didn't have a new technology to contend with, and didn't have a set of laws that just were draconian from the word go. Well, that's the situation now. I apologise about the length of this video, audio, whatever you want to call it, but I feel it is important to understand what's coming potentially. If the people who aren't hungry need to resist now, it would be too late when people are hungry, and that's such a simple point that people need to grasp. If you're hungry, you can't resist. If you're hot, you need to go and cool down. You can't resist. Please think about this. Cheers.